What is like the limit of age for being a politician?
Well, at the moment, we have raised the age to 95.
Vladimir Vladimirovich.
So, Mr. Putin, well, I'm not up to that yet. I would like to, after we've listened to the statements by the participants of this session, to underscore that the list of the participants of the Eastern Economic Forum keeps growing. It was my great pleasure to hear Spanish language. We've met with Mr. Ortega, Special Representative of Nicaragua for ties with Russia. But Mr. Ortega asked to send best regards from his father, Presidente and Comandante Daniel Ortega, but I can't but pay attention to the fact that there are Ukrainian investors now in this hall. For example, Mr. Medvedchuk is present here. He's an investor. So when is the exchange going to take place, Mr. Putin? The exchange, when is it going to take place? Well, I think that Mr. Medvedchuk is going to torture me about this. I know that he's especially nervous about several people to be exchanged who are now imprisoned in the Russian Federation, and it's quite hard for us. It was quite hard for us to take decision about this specific people. But based on humanity, we are now about to complete the talks that we have, including with the official authorities. So I believe that it will be known in the near future. The prospects of some exchanges with Ukraine or further talks are also a sort of a compass, if I may, in relationship with the countries of G7, for example. What will happen next after the exchange? What is possible after the exchange on the Ukrainian track between Russia and Ukraine? I believe that historically it will happen inevitable. We will normalize our relationship at the end of the day because we're two parts of the same people. And I've said that numerously before. As far as the nearest prospect is concerned, this will largely depend on the current Ukrainian leadership. So are we to expect something until the end of the week, before the end of the week? Well, I've just said that we will finalize our talks on the exchange. It will be rather a large-scale exchange, and it would also already be a good step towards normalization. Mr. Abe, I would like to ask you a question. When I mentioned the G7, for example, you've heard the reports that President Trump was present at the latest G7 summit and that he spoke in favor of the Russian Federation and President Putin. You observed it from inside. So without breaking some obvious rules, since this is a closed club, maybe you can tell us how it was, how it happened.
G7 の会合においてはですね、かつては G8 だったわけでありますが、やはりロシアのですね、様々な
As far as the G7 is concerned, we used to have G8 before. Within G8, we discussed that the creative influence on international community is of great importance. But as President Putin knows quite well since he took part in G8 summits, there are some rules there. I can only quote myself. I cannot quote other leaders. So I cannot say what exactly was said by President Trump, for example. I personally said that to resolve global issues, an important role should be played by Russia's influence, Russian creative influence. Therefore, I raised this issue of the possible return of Russia to this format.
Если позовут, поедете, Владимир Владимирович?
So if you're invited, will you go there, Mr. President? Where? G8. I think the next G8 summit is take place in the United States. However, it will be the heat of the presidential campaign. G8 was to actually take place in Russia, in Sochi. Yes, when we are open to our partners, we'll be happy and glad to welcome them in Russia if they wish to come. We were not the one to postpone this summit. Our partners postponed it. So if you want to restore G8, please come and do it. But I think that everyone understands today, and President Macron has said recently in public that the Western leadership is over. I cannot imagine an efficient international organization that works without India and without China. Any formats are always beneficial. This is always a positive exchange of views, even when there are some debates and disputes. I believe that was the case in G7 this time. But it's still useful, therefore, we do not abandon any format of cooperation. So, Mr. Modi, if such invitation is heard to extend G7 to include Russia, India and China up to G10, will you go to such G10 summit?
It is true that in principle, we support a multipolar world, and countries that are like-minded is likely represented. And I understand, these people get together in different forums and they talk about various global issues. And so each of the forums has its own importance. This time, I had the opportunity to be part of the G7 summit as an observer, and whatever role we need to play as an observer is what we did. However, this question, if this question was placed in front of me from the G7 forum, that would you like to be part of this, then I think it would be appropriate to answer, because here my yes or no as an answer to your question, I don't think really it has any meaning.
President of Turkey, Erdogan, has spoken to me quite recently, and he said that why didn't you raise the issue of Turkey being a part of this format? So after Turkey has purchased S-400, it is protected from the skies, from above. The work of Turkey in this format would also be quite relevant. I'm talking about its role in international affairs and in the region. Well, actually, as far as I understand, from the latest two remarks made by Prime Minister of India and President of Russia, G20 is the format which actually resolves all the tasks that we have in front of us. Yes, as of today, this is maybe the most representative international organization that deals with harmonization of positions on economy. Don't be surprised by my next question, but I hope it will be quite a curious approach. My question is to President of Mongolia. There is one suspicious coincidence. A call by President Trump to President Putin took place on the day you were in Washington. Did you do something about it? Did you actually make President Trump make this call? Could you tell us about it? Big countries have certain misunderstanding between them. And during my visit to the United States, I said that we live on the same planet. Siberia is a part of this planet, is a part of this global world. The Siberian forests are burning down. I've told him, why don't you call the president to express your condolences over this? We live on the same planet. Siberia is the lungs of our country. So these lungs are burning. Why don't you call the Russian president and express your condolences? It's just suspicious, Remember where I used to work. Everybody knows where I used to work, so I'm aware of everything that's going on.
Vladimir Vladimirovич,
Mr. Putin, well, you've talked to President Trump recently. The idea of G8 has been mentioned. So what are we to begin with? There is a lot of issues that have accumulated over the recent years. I've had a look at statistics. By the last year, 40 citizens of the Russian Federation were arrested upon request of the United States in the third countries. So January 2019, the citizen Makarenko, I don't know what he's accused of, but the very fact of it, I'm going to mention it. Mr. Korshunov was arrested in Naples. So is it easy to step over this, to turn this page over? How easy it is to restore dialogue against this backdrop? This practice is really bad, which makes our state-to-state relationship much more complicated, and I'm not making any jokes about it. We often see no foundation for the unfriendly acts of such nature. I have every reason to believe that this has to do sometimes with competitive fight. There are some criminal elements to it, maybe, but maybe our law enforcement agencies should have cooperated better on that. They should have signed an intergovernmental agreement, a document on how to act in situations like this. Such documents actually exist. The one of 1999, we had an agreement in 1999. They could be updated because they, in fact, are not operational. But in some extent, this has to do with competition in aviation building. We have this good mid-range aircraft, MS-21, developing it. It's a competitor to Boeing 737. But it was put under sanctions. A part of this aircraft, which is used for producing the Win, was placed under the sanctions list. It has nothing to do with defense, nothing. But we'll do it on our own. But cooperation would be actually important. And we were ready to purchase such U.S. materials, just the same as the U.S. is purchasing titanium from us in large quantities and producing Boeings from our titanium. But we'll do it anyway. It will take us some time, maybe a year or two, maybe a year and a half. It's already flying. This aircraft is already flying, and we will have these materials. And maybe it's a good thing that we will have our own materials. We will not have to depend on anyone. Now, as for the person you've mentioned that is involved in engine construction, working for the Engine Construction Corporation, some accusations have been made of him stealing some secrets. We've heard such accusations against the People's Republic of China, for example. I don't know what's actually going on there. But here we know for sure that this corporation, the United Engine Building Corporation, produced a new Russian engine. It took it a lot of time to produce this engine. This is our first high-tech product of such nature for the last 28 years. And our Engine Building Corporation was producing it. This is a specific enterprise with very good competences, with good staff, with the R&D base of world class. We signed a contract with an Italian company for consultation. That's absolutely natural world practice. This is an open commercial work with our European partners. Now, the US friends are trying to assure us of the fact that some Americans were employed by this company, that they stole something. Well, if they stole something, then this should be somehow dealt with. But we do not anything that they stole. Everything that we make is made by our specialists. Well, consultation, some joint efforts on state-of-the-art high-tech products this is something natural, some public work that is going on. So in this particular case, I believe that what we see are the attempts of malafide competition, and this does not improve our relationship in any way.
Те из нас, кто хотел.
So those of us who want something good in the relationship between Russia and the West after all these years are looking at in depth at the details, and I promise that in just one step we'll go back to economic issues, which is the main topic of this forum. One more military and political question. I would like to take advantage of the presence of Mr. Abe here. On August 27th, many world agencies, including France Press, reported about the forthcoming supplies of US missiles for air defense to Japan. So against the backdrop of the expiration of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty and about everyone knows about the peculiar characteristics of launchers in Romania and in Poland, I'm sorry about these long details, but against the backdrop of the treaty that was signed by Gorbachev and Reagan with regard to Europe by the Soviet Union, destroyed all such missiles in Asia. This may transform the missile configuration in Asia. So 2 questions, Mr. Putin. Or if someone else wishes to comment, we'll appreciate it, of course. So 2 questions. First, what is your vision of the possible mechanism for control or limitation, whatever, of missile issues in Asia? Will it actually be required, especially given the emergence of US missiles there? And the second thing, I promised I would go back to that. How are you to negotiate with Japan against this backdrop? You mentioned this military US aspect, so that's it. That's the example of it. Our position with regard to US withdrawal from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty is well known. There is no need to repeat it. It's not just that we do not welcome this step. We believe it to be counterproductive and destroy the international arms control system. We've said in public already that we're not going to employ, after the US has tested such a missile, we are not going to employ this missile. We will produce such missiles, of course, in those regions where US missile systems will not emerge, such land-based systems. The fact that the head of Pentagon has said that the US is going to employ those systems in Japan and in South Korea does not make us any happy. This actually makes us quite sad. And it is also a reason for certain concerns for us. This was, by the way, the subject of our talks with Prime Minister on numerous occasions, even before the Americans produced such missiles.
If they are deployed in Japan or South Korea, we understand that this is going to be done under the pretext of preventing the threat from North Korea. But even for us, it is going to pose a significant problem, a very serious one, because these missile systems are going to be able to cover a large part of the Russian territory, and in particular in the Russian Far East. And I'd like to remind you that 2 big military bases of ours are located here, as well as a base of nuclear-powered strategic aircraft carriers and ports, and Kamchatka in particular. And this is a serious matter. And in this particular context, of course, this is something we cannot overlook. And this is one of the factors that is going to be taken into account in our talks, both with Japan and South Korea. So far, we do not know the response of our South Korean and Japanese partners to that initiative. Prime Minister and I have not spoken about that today. Incidentally, on many occasions, we drew attention to the fact that launches MS-21 can not just be used for anti-missiles, interceptor missiles, but also they can be used for offensive missiles, even though the Americans are trying to say that this is not the case. But they have tested these launches with offensive missile systems. So this launcher can be part of offensive weaponry. So we were right. So I assume they were trying to lead us astray. But we have no illusions about that, we understand, and we are going to respond appropriately.
まずはじめに誤解を解かなければいけないんですが、
First and foremost, I would like to say that in Poland or in South Korea, there are ABM systems deployed, but they do belong to the US and they are managed by the US. Japan, on the country, has an ABM system on its own, and it is managed by Japan and is not under the control of the US. So, yes, this initiative also stipulates that such systems are going to be under control of Japan. So this is absolutely different from the missiles that are deployed, for instance, in Poland. Now, as far as Japan's defensive system is concerned, North Korea has several hundreds ballistic missiles at its disposal. So in order to protect ourselves, we decided to implement an ABM system of our own. The launch of a ballistic missile goes contrary to UN Security Council resolutions and, of course, is distressing. But to protect our country from such conduct, we have to deploy an ABM system of our own. Now, as for the deployment of American systems in Japan, we have not received any proposal to that effect from the US. What we have in Japan right now belongs to Japan. It's Japanese property, and it is meant for the protection of our country. So even technically, for instance, to launch a Tomahawk missile from such systems we have is impossible. Well, the head of the Pentagon has announced that the US is engaged in talks with Japan as well as with South Korea, and that it intends to continue these talks with a view to deploying their land-based intermediate-range missile systems. But let me reiterate, Shinzo and I didn't have talks to that effect. So this issue is going to be discussed at the foreign ministries level in future. Thank you. Let me get back to the issue of security. We cannot overlook it. But now let's get back for a while to economic matters. There was a wonderful session at the Valdai International Club, and there was a World Bank representative speaking during that session, and I liked a lot how he formulated his thought, just as between India and Russia, as well as between China and Russia, there is the so-called undertrade. That's what he called it. The current capacities would allow these countries trading to trade more. And there is, I think, a goal of reaching 30 billion in trade between India and Russia. So, Prime Minister Modi, what do you think can be done to achieve a steady development for economic and trade relations between Russia and India?
आपने बहुत ही सही सवाल पूछा है और वर्ल्ड बैंक का जो ये ऑब्जर्वेशन है उसमें काफ़ी सच्चाई है, बहुत संभावनाएं हैं और अभी तक हम पूर्ण सामर्थ्य के साथ अनेक विविधताओं के साथ जितना करना चाहिए उसमें हमारी गति भी कम है और हमारा व्याप भी कम है और ये बात भारत रशिया दोनों मानते हैं। ऐसा नहीं है कि हम दोनों इस बात को नहीं मानते। आपको मालूम होगा कि एक समय ऐसा था कि जिसमें रशिया और भारत का संबंध ज़्यादातर बायर और सेलर का था और वो भी शस्त्रास्त्रों की खरीदी करने वाला भारत एक खरीदार था। आज ऐसी स्थिति नहीं है। चाहे डायमंड हो, चाहे ऑयल हो, चाहे एनर्जी सेक्टर हो, रशिया का भारत में भी इन्वेस्टमेंट हो रहा है, भारत का भी रशिया में इन्वेस्टमेंट हो रहा है, टूरिज्म हमारा बढ़ रहा है, हमारे पॉलिटिकल एंगेजमेंट भी बहुत बड़े हैं और रशिया भारत का बहुत पुराना विश्वस्त मित्र रहा है। और अब बायर सेलर की भूमिका से निकल करके हम दोनों देश मिलकर के हर क्षेत्र में आर्थिक संबंधों को बनाने की दिशा में आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। इसमें भी सिर्फ मैं आकर के यहां लेक्चर देकर के नहीं जा रहा हूं। मेरे आने से पहले मेरे देश के 4 बड़े राज्य के मुख्यमंत्री आए, 150 से ज्यादा व्यापार और उद्योग जगत के लोग आए। इसके पहले मैं जब सेंट पीटर्सबर्ग आया था तो यहां के सारे गवर्नर्स वहां आए थे, मैंने उनके साथ संवाद किया था। तो एक प्रकार से हमने जहां जहां पोटेंशियल है उसको आइडेंटिफाई कर रहे हैं। वैल्यू एडिशन के लिए हम एक दूसरे को कैसे पूरक हो सकते हैं, इस पर योजना कर रहे हैं। और मुझे पक्का भरोसा है कि हमने कहीं पर भी संतोष नहीं मानना चाहिए। अगर मान लीजिए वर्ल्ड बैंक का रिपोर्ट ये भी कह दे कि बहुत अच्छा हमारा ट्रेड है, तो भी मैं संतुष्ट होना नहीं चाहूंगा, मैं उससे भी आगे बढ़ना चाहूंगा। और राष्ट्रपति पुतिन मेरे मित्र का और मेरी मित्रता के बीच में ये एक चीज कॉमन है कि हम दोनों कहीं संतोष नहीं मानते हैं, कहीं रुकते नहीं हैं। अगर कुछ हुआ है तो और ज्यादा अच्छा करें, और ज्यादा व्यापक करें, और लंबे समय के लिए। इस मूलभूत चिंतन से जुड़े हुए होने के कारण और वर्ल्ड बैंक के इस रिपोर्ट को नजरिए में रखते हुए हम और अधिक आगे बढ़ना चाहते हैं।
Еще в таком случае вопрос по поводу того, куда стремиться больше.
Case, another question about what else can be done. Well, of course, I read before this meeting, and I understand that you've got a topic you like very much, that is youth. And right now, India has this superpower image in ITCs and software, and youth and computer technologies are inextricably linked in many minds. So within this economic exchanges, what can be done? What about youth and economic? How do they intertwine together? How are they supposed to work together?
Analysis is
भारत दुनिया का आज सबसे युवा देश है। इंफॉर्मेशन कम्युनिकेशन टेक्नोलॉजी में भारत ने अपने एक महारत हासिल की है, लेकिन हम कैसे आगे बढ़ते हैं? मैं पिछले वर्ष एक इनफॉर्मल समिट के लिए मैं और राष्ट्रपति पुतिन सोची में 2 दिन रहे थे। कोई एजेंडा नहीं था, ऐसे ही हम लोग मिले थे और बाद में मुझे वो एक एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट देखने के लिए ले गए थे और मैं बहुत प्रभावित हुआ था। और बाद में वे जब भारत आए तो मैंने उनसे बड़ा आग्रह किया था कि आप सोची से जो आपके होनहार स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनको ले आइए। हमने भारत के भी अलग अलग यूनिवर्सिटी से वैसे ही स्टूडेंट एकत्र किए और उनका एक हैकेथॉन किया टेक्नोलॉजी को लेकर के, यानी एक प्रकार से मीटिंग ऑफ माइंड, इनोवेशंस एंड समथिंग टू दुनिया को डिलीवर करना। वो बहुत ही अच्छा प्रयोग रहा। अब भारत से बच्चे सोची में आएंगे तो ये स्टूडेंट एक्सचेंज फॉर इनोवेशन एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, स्टार्टअप एक बहुत बड़ी ताकत आज भारत की उभर कर रही है। हम दुनिया में पहले 3 में हमने अपनी जगह बनाई है। भारत के यूथ उसमें इनिशिएटिव ले रहा है। हम उसमें दुनिया के इस प्रकार का जो इनोवेटिव माइंड के यूथ है उनको हम जोड़ना चाहते हैं, तो उसके द्वारा भी कर सकता है। सामान्य जन के लिए अब टेक्नोलॉजी अनिवार्य हो गई है। हम टेक्नोलॉजी को जीवन का एक एक्सटेंडेड हिस्सा मान करके ही चलना होगा। तो एक कॉमन गुड्स के लिए हम टेक्नोलॉजी का ज़्यादा इस्तेमाल कैसे कर सकें और उसमें रशियन ब्रेन एंड इंडियन ब्रेन मिल करके उस काम को कर सकते हैं। मैं समझता हूं हमारी युवा शक्ति इस विषय को लेकर के काफी कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकती है।
Владимир Владимирович, премьер-министр сейчас имел в виду, естественно, закончился перевод, да? Владимир Владимирович, премьер-министр сейчас...
Yes, of course, Prime Minister has just been speaking about Syria School in Sochi. And indeed, there are wonderful young people there. And there are also those from the Agency for Strategic Initiatives, but other young people who take to the streets. What about these young people? Are these young people your people? Those people who have taken to the street? Yes, it's very strange here. The sound goes into the audience, but it doesn't go here on the podium. So there are young people from Sirius, young people from the Agency for Strategic Initiatives, and there are people, young people who have taken into the streets recently. Are they your young people? Well, listen, Shinji has said that people are faster in Japan, and it's good. And in Russia, for instance, in Chechnya or in Dagestan, they are still going as slowly as they used to, but the birth rates are higher in Japan, so it's the matter of what you spend your nerves on, as it were. I assume that all of us, primarily young people, have to spend their energy on creative processes. When people express their points of view during acts of protest, I believe, and I said that before, have the right to do so. Sometimes this can bring about positive results because it is sort of a shake-off for the power. It helps the authorities reconfigure in a way that makes it efficient, more efficient in addressing the issues people are faced with. But these actions have to take place in a positive vein. They do not have to pursue their self-serving, narrow interests. No, they have to be guided by the common interest, by the interest of the people. And they also have to act within the framework laid down by the law. And this is a point of view I've always adhered to. I still do. And the practice of such actions in Russia and elsewhere says that I'm right. It's a testimony to that. Now, as for, well, those young people you asked me about, I believe most of them think positively. They want our country to develop. They want to make a contribution of their own to the development of our country. The only question is for them to find their own place in life, whereas it's up to the authorities to do everything in their power for young people to be able to find themselves and to make the maximum contribution they can to a creative development of their country. Young people are very energetic, very dynamic, very active, but I reiterate, it has to be done within the framework of the law. And I'm confident that many people who are in the politics are going to be in great demand in future as well. Mr. President, I remember the experience of my generation. I'm 47. Guys and I, in the 1990s, early 90s, we went to different rallies. As I remember one rally against Article 6 of the Constitution. There were students and we went against that article saying that the Communist Party was the core of the political system. But when we approached Zubovsky Boulevard, we were very close to the rally, and I think there were several hundreds. people, and we wanted the Politburo to retire. And, well, it turned out when we went to the rally that it was very easy to lead young people astray. The attitude towards everyone has to be equal and the same as part of the law. Yes, thank you. Now, we spoke about some security issues, and I'd like to ask something about politics. I saw the audience, and I saw Mr. Medvedchuk, and I remembered the announcement of President Zelensky, who said that the Party of Life was getting foreign funding. Did you see this announcement? What's your attitude to that? No, I didn't see that announcement, but if it did take place, then it says that the current authorities in Kiev run the risk of encountering the same problem, of making the same mistake that was made by the previous government in the person of previous President Mr. Poroshenko. If the current authorities begin their political path from and by persecutions against the opposition, nothing good is going to come out of this. As far as I understand, there is opposition in the parliament which wields a great deal of support and trust of the voters, which was confirmed during the elections. So it would be very strange if the authorities decided to introduce tighter rules. The opposition is not taken to the streets. They are not trying to violate the legislation or the constitution. And I think it would be a mistake if attempts were made to prevent them from exercising their rights under the constitution. Very briefly, we touched upon an issue that is very important to everyone present here. That's the issue of Iran and sanctions, and the third phase of the withdrawal from the JCPOA. Prime Minister Abe, recently you've been to Iran. Incidentally, it was very interesting to see this picture, this image of the Japanese side and the Iranian side on the other side. It was not a coincidence that you went there. So what do you think about this future of the JCPOA? What are your relations with the countries involved in this discussion and this conflict, which is also related to the freedom of navigation? So what's the way out?
日本はまずこの核合意については支持をする立場であります。
As for Japan, then we have long talked to the US that we have our very own opinion. And concerning Iran and the nuclear deal issue, I wish that it would be resolved through negotiations. Japan has historically friendly relationships with Iran, and I've always considered that we need to use, in the best possible way, those friendly ties. That is why I visited Iran and I talked to the president, and Mr. Khomeini, and he said very clearly that Iran is not going to produce or use nuclear weapons. He said that very clearly. The supreme leader said it. As for the president of Iran, he said the following: we will strive to establish a dialogue and resolve all the problems through dialogue. And Japan provides support. As for our resources, we really use a lot of resources from the Middle East, and the energy resources coming from there are very important for our country. So security of tankers coming from there is very important for us. We need to ensure security there, and France is doing a lot, and Japan is doing a lot to ensure security. We will use our friendly ties, our historically friendly ties, in future, and we have talked about it with President Putin as well.
Если иногда теряется перевод здесь через два языка, насколько мне известно, я повторю на всякий случай свой вопрос, чтобы переводчики успели. Будет ли Индия, собирается ли Индия?
Is India going to send its naval forces to the Strait of Hormuz from the Gulf to the Indian Ocean, where the Persian oil is going through?
भारत का इतिहास दुनिया के सामने है। यूएन का जो पीस कीपिंग फोर्स है उसमें सबसे अधिक योगदान करने में भारत की बहुत बड़ी भूमिका रही है। तो भारत के सैनिक हमेशा पीस कीपिंग फोर्स के अंतर्गत ही काम करने के आदी रहे हैं। आज तक हमने कभी भी आजाद भारत ने ऐसी कोई प्रवृत्ति नहीं की है। ये सही है कि प्रथम और दूसरे विश्व युद्ध में, जो कि न ही हमारा एजेंडा था न ही हमारा मिशन था, लेकिन दो विश्व युद्ध में भारत ने करीब 1.5 लाख लोग हमारे शहीद हुए हैं। हमारा हजारों साल का इतिहास है। भारत कभी भी इस प्रकार की प्रवृत्तियों से जुड़ा हुआ नहीं है। लेकिन जहां तक हमारे एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी का सवाल है, हम अधिकतम ईरान पर डिपेंडेंट रहे हैं हमारे एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी के लिए। लेकिन पिछले दिनों वहां की जो समस्या हुई उसका साइड इफेक्ट हम पर न हो, इसलिए हमने हमारी एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी को कोई तकलीफ न हो, हमारे जहाज़ों को कोई तकलीफ न हो, उनकी सुरक्षा की व्यवस्था हमने करके रखी हुई है। और वो सिर्फ भारत के हमारे जो ऑयल टैंकर हैं उसकी सुरक्षा की व्यवस्था है। हमने किसी को टारगेट करना या किसी की व्यवस्था में दखल देना, न ये हमारा लक्ष्य है, न हमारी योजना है, और न ही दुनिया में कोई हमारे इस विषय को लेकर के कोई नेगेटिव चर्चा करता है।
Владимир Владимирович, что с российским военным?
So, Mr. Putin, what about Russia's military presence? Because in the Soviet time it used to be the case. Considering the development of our navy and our military forces, this is not a problem for us, but it's not about that. We need to make all actions efficient and for them to bring about peaceful resolution and greater security and safety in the region and the Strait of Hormuz. Several years ago, Russia presented an initiative to create an international mechanism with the participation of all the interested countries in the region and all those wanting for those routes to function properly, involving Russia, the US, and Asian countries. In future, we could even create a special international organization to resolve any issues arising there. We are discussing that with my colleagues, including with our Chinese partners and with our partners from other countries. We'll see what it will lead to, but Russia is interested for the situation to become less tense, and all actions should lead to a calmer situation and to resolve the issues around the Iran nuclear program based on the previously adopted international documents, which were confirmed by the relevant resolutions of the Security Council of the UN. In this case, the last question regarding security, there's an interesting change in the world. Considering the UK, US, there are 3 countries in NATO, but there's also Russia, India, and Pakistan in another organization, but a lot depends on various agreements when it comes to strategic stability. In your address to the Federal Assembly 2 years ago, you talked about new types of weapons, the supersonic weapons, hypersonic weapons. Could they become a part of a greater deal with the Americans? Yes, we believe that the existing instruments, and there's only one left, the New START treaty, and this treaty has indeed been signed between Russia and the US. And currently, the US has a new version of the treaty. They want to also involve China in this treaty. But China has been consistent in saying that Chinese nuclear potential is much lower than Russia's or the Americans. And that's why, how could they lower it if they have it low per se? This is what the situation looks like today. But you should not forget that the US did not even join the Treaty on the Comprehensive Ban of Nuclear Tests, CTBT. And now we also have the danger of placing weapons in outer space. And those are all very serious challenges that the humanity might face. And now, over our heads in space, there would be some type of weapons present, even nuclear weapons. And a very short time it would travel the distance. So it would make defense options very complex. So it might drastically change the security situation around the globe. As for now, American partners, when we propose to continue talking about disarmament, they remain silent. There's nothing new about that. We have met with American partners last time in Osaka, and we discussed how we can possibly account for our new weapons, especially hypersonic missile systems, and no country in the world has weapons like that, even the US. So I said maybe you could sell such weapons to America, and then we could even the balance. But they say that maybe they might produce such weapons themselves, maybe, but then why would they spend the money if we have already spent the money and we can gain something from them? It would not be a breach of our security, but would help to create a balance. We can also talk what could be accounted for when we talk about various types of weapons and launch vehicles. Russia is ready to talk about that, but so far we have not received a coherent response from the US. Our session has been going for a long time, so maybe we should talk about the last major topic, and it is a common topic for us, as the President of Mongolia asked to call you regarding the forest fires. He talked to the American president. However, you might think of nature and the problem of the climate change. There are different versions, but we are not talking about that. But we see some unprecedented changes around the world. It's not about satellite connectivity and us knowing faster about, say, the forest fires in Brasilia than elsewhere. We can just observe that there are great changes. I like to collect mushrooms, and until last year I collected mushrooms in October. So maybe you actually set the forests on fire. No. So I only collect mushrooms in Moscow, in the Moscow region. This is a very complex topic, so I would like to apply it to the participants of the session. Russia likes it that the Arctic Ocean gives more time for marine traffic that doesn't have ice coverage, but at the same time we know that on the shore the fact that we see snows melting and permafrost melting, and I have witnessed that rivers are not covered in ice, and that's why there's a problem with deers, and they cannot cross the rivers, etc., etc. this is a common topic because Russian Arctic oil and gas will pass through a new route, which was named by the prime ministers of India and Japan. And the problem with the Siberian forest fires reaches Mongolia. So we have a climate agreement, so maybe we should implement that, but I guess we should do more. Let's start with the president of Mongolia, who first addressed the topic, what could we do together, seriously do together in order to combat this problem. As I've already said, we live on the same planet. Those are all our mistakes. Those are all our problems. And today, waste has become a truly global problem. Just like air pollution, environmental pollution, there are companies with a certain status, and they should make a contribution into environmental protection. Perhaps they could dedicate 1% of their overall income in order to combat environmental damage. And we have a major company which contributed 1% of their revenue to the environmental foundation. So perhaps we could create a global environmental foundation and to call upon the companies to dedicate a certain percentage of their revenue to this foundation. Perhaps within the G20 or within the G7, we do not have another planet to spare, so we need to be responsible when we talk about our future. And India, you have the task to make India the first country to use electric mobiles by 2030. But then you have to make them using coal, oil, gas. How could you combine that?
मैं मानता हूं इस फोरम में जलवायु परिवर्तन की चिंता होना बहुत स्वाभाविक है और जरूरी भी है, और मैं आपको बधाई देता हूं कि आपने इस महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दे को स्पर्श किया है। आज हमें जो कुछ भी नसीब हुआ है वो कभी न कभी हमारे पूर्वजों ने बचा के रखा था, उसके कारण हमें नसीब हुआ है। इंसान के नाते विश्व के किसी भी कोने में क्यों न रहते हो, हमने भी हमारी भावी पीढ़ी के लिए कुछ बचा के रखना होगा, उनके लिए विरासत में देकर के जाना होगा ताकि वे भी सुख चैन की जिंदगी जी सके। महात्मा गांधी ट्रस्टीशिप के सिद्धांत की चर्चा करते थे और वो हमेशा कहते थे, और उसी स्पिरिट से हमने भी सोचना चाहिए कि हम एक पृथ्वी के ट्रस्टी हैं। हमें हमारी उपयोगिता से अधिक किसी भी से छीनने का अधिकार नहीं है। अगर ये सिद्धांतों का पालन हम समाज व्यवस्था में ला सकते हैं, तब जाकर के इस समस्या का समाधान होगा। हम सोचते होंगे कि टेक्नोलॉजी से समस्या का समाधान होगा, सामूहिक मिलकर के रिजोल्यूशन करने से होगा। ये सबसे बड़ा हर इंडिविजुअल नागरिक के बिहेवियरल चेंज से जुड़ा हुआ विषय है, और उसमें एक सेंसिटिविटी होनी चाहिए कि उस दिशा में जाएं। हमने उस टेक्नोलॉजी को विकसित करना होगा, जैसे भारत ने COP21 में 175 गीगावाट रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी का लक्ष्य टारगेट किया, ताकि हम क्लाइमेट चेंज, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग की समस्या में कुछ पॉजिटिव कंट्रीब्यूशन करें, ताकि भविष्य में दुनिया को तकलीफ ना हो। आज मुझे गर्व से कहना है कि 175 गीगावाट में से हम काफी मात्रा में सोलर एनर्जी की ओर शिफ्ट कर गए, काफी हमने कंट्रीब्यूशन किया है, और जो टारगेट हमने तय किया है 2022 तक 175 गीगावाट रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी का, वो हम पूरा कर लेंगे। जहां तक मोबिलिटी का सवाल है, दुनिया को अभी से सोचना होगा कि हम इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल की तरफ, मोबिलिटी की तरफ कैसे ध्यान दें। लेकिन अगर मैं व्हीकल पर बल देता हूं तो एक मार्केट और बिजनेस उसकी तरफ जाता है। हमारा फोकस है क्या भारत इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल के लिए बैटरी, और वो भी सोलर सिस्टम से रिचार्ज हो ऐसी बैटरी, उसका मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब बन सकता है क्या? और इसलिए हमने हमारी जितनी भी नीतियां बना रहे हैं, उस नीतियों के केंद्र बिंदु में हम पहले प्रमोट करना चाहते हैं बैटरी का निर्माण। एक बार जैसे मोबाइल फोन इसलिए पॉपुलर हुआ क्योंकि धीरे धीरे उसकी बैटरी छोटी होती गई और उस बैटरी की ताकत भी बढ़ती चली गई, 12 घंटे, 24 घंटे, 36 घंटे। उसके कारण मोबाइल फोन की अफोर्डेबिलिटी बढ़ गई। वैसा ही इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल में भी बैटरी सबसे बड़ी महत्वपूर्ण विषय रहेगा। और एक मेरा मिशन और है भारत में क्लीन कुकिंग का। हमारे यहाँ करीब 250 फैमिलीज हैं, घर है जिसको कहें। 250 मिलियन अगर हमारे यहाँ ये है तो मुझे 250 मिलियन घरों के लिए क्लीन कुकिंग के लिए मैं सोलार सिस्टम से चलने वाली एनर्जी सिस्टम डेवलप करना चाहता हूं। उनके लिए उसे बैटरी व्यवस्था विकसित करना चाहता हूं ताकि सोलार सिस्टम से एनर्जी स्टोरेज भी हो और उसी से कुकिंग भी हो, ताकि हम एनवायरनमेंट को बहुत बड़ी मदद कर सकते हैं। मैंने इस क्षेत्र में काम करने वाली कंपनियों को चैलेंज रूट पर आने के लिए इनवाइट किया है। आप कल्पना कर सकते हैं कि 250 मिलियन इस प्रकार की बैटरियां ना बहुत बड़ा मार्केट है। अगर इस मार्केट को ध्यान में रखें तो कार मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के मार्केट को भी बहुत बड़ा उसके कारण एक प्रकार से क्रॉस सब्सिडाइज हो जाएगा। तो हम उस पर भी बल दे रहे हैं। लेकिन ये बात सही है कि मोबिलिटी के क्षेत्र में ये बहुत बड़ा बदलाव अनिवार्य है।
Prime Minister Abe, thank you for the compliments, because you're still burning coal, but there is no smoke. Have you seen coal stations in Japan? You should probably disseminate it around the world. The same question goes to you.
石炭についてはこの CO2 排出を削減する上でいろんな議論があるのは承知をしておりますが、しかし実際に石炭は世界に広く分布をしておりますし、インドや中国をはじめ新興国にとっては貴重な値段の安いエネルギー源であることは事実であります。今お話があったように日本の火力発電分野におけるこの技術、例えば排熱利用や高温ガスタービンなどの技術によってですね、世界で最も高い効率を実現しています。
Japanese coal technologies are at the highest level. And in thermal stations, we have a standard 20% higher than around the world. And if we would use our technologies for fast-growing economies, then we could reduce the CO2 emissions.
And also in the future, we're going to use gasification and fuel elements, by this raising the efficiency by another 40%. And from the point of view of implementing the carbon-free society, we need some breakthrough innovations to do that. And in this particular regard, the key role will be played by hydrogen, which will not emit CO2. And in this regard, Japan, for the first time in the world, implemented these cars based on fuel element. And now in Fukushima, we are building a plant that will produce hydrogen. That is a major plant, the biggest plant. And next year, during the Olympic Games and Paralympic Games, we're going to use this hydrogen to control cars. The biggest issue with hydrogen is the high cost of it. But we have some long-term strategy that envisages lowering cost of hydrogen down to the level of natural gas by 10 times. We also have some plans of introducing technologies for the CO2 waste management, including artificial photosynthesis technologies. Therefore, Japan will be one of leaders in terms of innovation using the current technologies and state-of-the-art technologies.
Лучшее у всех на эту тему. Вот тут действительно.
So it's a good thing that you've raised this issue. We've heard many times today some things that you were consonant about. What is the much promising history in Asia? So environmental protection. Yes, environmental protection is closely interlinked with energy. That is something that we've been talking about. Global warming also impacts Russia, among other countries. I mentioned it at G20 summit. Here in Russia, according to our data, according to international experts, the warming is moving at 2.5 times quicker than on the planet in general, and this poses a certain threat to us. First and foremost, in the north, where you were right to mention that the settlements are built on permafrost, and an issue occurs of what we are to do about that. But we support all the international efforts in this area. As you know, we've supported the Paris Agreement. We assumed rather considerable obligations to reduce emissions by about 70% from the base 1990 level, from the baseline level. By the way, the EU countries assumed a more modest obligation from the same, compared to the same baseline year. They assumed to reduce emissions by 60%. And by the way, we were talking about electric cars. Just now, the international organizations have recorded for the first time in history a drastic downfall in the sales of electric cars. There are certain reasons for that. But not only global warming is responsible for all the environmental issues that we have. There's also an issue of gas motor fuel. A lot of cars are used in big cities. They use this fuel. They use all sorts of fuel, including carbons, in the public utility system. This is all part of the program. The program that we have prepared to improve the environmental situation in the country on the whole. This is just a part of the problem. At the same time, I would like to emphasize that globally, the structure of Russian energy is one of the greenest in the world. More than 1/3 of our energy accounts for hydro energy and nuclear energy. And more than 50% goes for gas, which, as it is well known, is one of the most environmental kinds of fuel among all hydrocarbons. And we're a country rich in hydrocarbons. This is our competitive advantage, and we should never forget that we should make the best and efficient use of this competitive advantage. Well, we should not keep aside from the main trend. We have to think about what will happen tomorrow. We should also consider alternative energy sources, hydrogen energy, for example. Over the recent years, we've introduced about 800 megawatts of capacities based on renewable energy sources. We are working on that. By 2024, we plan to introduce 4.2 or 4.7 gigawatts of these capacities, renewable energy capacities. Just now, together with our Finnish partners, we have put into operation a wind park. We also work on solar energy. We believe this is a very good trend, and we will do our best to make sure our environmental plans are implemented. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before thanking the participants of the session, I would like to thank the people of Vladivostok. First of all, this city has provided a lot of volunteers for this forum. We would like to thank them in particular. And Vladivostok has not only turned into a platform for this forum and the place where, please, dear delegates, spend as much money as you can here for the tax revenues for this city. But Vladivostok is also becoming a gate to Russia, to the Far East. So let's thank Vladivostok and its people in particular. Let's applaud them. And a special thanks goes to Prime Minister Abe, Prime Minister Modi, President Batulga, President Putin for participating in this plenary session of the Eastern Economic Forum. See you again soon. Thank you.
Gracias.